All right, so welcome everyone to Champion Your Culture. This is a really special week. I am sitting here with the amazing Shannon, and she is just, listen, we had the last 3 days, five champions from all over come in, and we have been training them in the culture of good, how to build a culture of good in their business, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been inspiring. We were just talking about how different each person was, but yet how they were able to create this incredible bond over the last 3 days. And now they're going out having created these new connections and friendships, and everyone was hugging at the end. Yeah. And we played We Are the Champions, and they all got their shirts and certifications. I just feel so happy and relieved and grateful.
Yeah. And it's very rewarding to have worked in this space for 10 years and then to see it begin to take root in other organizations and people and leaders that are saying, you know what, I care about this. I care about people. I care about having the type of environment where people feel like they're loved and cared for, but doing it in a way that's like operationalized, that has tools and processes and right, like there's actually something to grab a hold of. So many times in our organizations we have culture, but no one knows really what it is, and if you ask 10 people you get 10 different answers. But to have something where everybody can wrap their arms around it in their minds and their hearts and actually do it.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing, was that there was one of our cohort members had said, I want to take our promises, I want to take our values, I want to take our culture off the wall, meaning off the poster that you see as you pass through the walls. I want to take it off the wall and put it into our hearts. And I was like, you couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And as we were going through it, the cool thing was, as everyone was leaving, they said, this is the first time I've gone through a certification where I have a game plan ready to implement immediately. They're not just putting another binder full of information on there.
I've been to those trainings. It's like, I literally I hate it because there's like so much good stuff, and then you just get home and then you have all this good stuff and you're like, what now?
Great.
I know it's like a learning, but there's no like actual application or like what's the best practices for engagement or recruitment or retention or onboarding? What's the best ideas around communicating culture, getting buy-in, doing all of those things? And I love how you bring those organizational change management principles into our process, because that allows for it to really take root. And for people to know, okay, as it takes root, I'm supposed to be watering it. I'm supposed to be fertilizing it. I'm supposed to be, managing the soil. Like, what is everyone in the organization going to do around this?
Right.
And how are we informed, right? How are we empowered? That stuff is just like, for me, that was the biggest takeaway, is giving leaders the opportunity to know the how to.
Right.
Because people come because why? Yeah. Like they know the why. They know they want to bring purposeful, meaningful work into the workplace. But in terms of like, how do you do that?
Yes.
The step by step.
I mean, there were companies who came this week and they're like, you know what? We already have these big, good events that we're doing, and we already have values, and we already have a give back component. Yet one of the things that they said was, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you have to do more than just have an event to have a culture that gives back, right? There's daily, weekly, quarterly things to engage and re-engage and provide awareness and carry people through that culture and ignite it. And what was I saying? The eighth, we have a list of 7 S's, but I added an 8th S to that list, which is show up.
Yeah.
Which I think I do personally very well. But I preach this to my children. I live this out. You show up when you're tired. You show up to the cause and to your passions, even when you don't want to.
Mhm.
You show up when you're the only one. You show up when it's fun. You show up when everyone's on board. You show up when there's one person on board. It doesn't matter, because you are holding space and you're showing up and you're showing everyone else what it looks like to continually show up for something. And that's what makes it successful. That's what makes it stick.
Yeah, and I also love how culture good, because some people think, okay, it's culture of good, it's all volunteerism, it's all philanthropy. So much more than that.
Right.
Like the give back component and going into the community, I mean, that's really the way we re-engage, right? Here's the secret. How do you continue to re-engage?
It's almost an output.
It's an output, but it's also a catalyst.
Yeah.
Because really, when you have that common good that everyone can rally around, who's the everyone?
Right.
Your employees and customers. So now you've got your employees and customers engaged in community. So now you have all three of those stakeholder groups like engaged together, connected. What are people looking for right now? Connection, friendships, not relationship in the sense of I have to be a best friend of everybody at work, but we're wanting that, like we're wired for connection, to be able to also have a sense that what we do has meaning. And so it goes beyond just caring about each other and the customers and community, also driving the business.
Ooh, that was a good one today.
Yeah. Like, how does the success of doing good and having purpose-driven work, how does that drive profitability so that profitability can be used for greater good? And that's that beautiful cycle that we would like to see happen, is there's care and there's drive business, and that continues to provide that opportunity for people to engage with something and, to your point, re-engage every single quarter. I mean, if you're out there and you're not a culture good champion, this is one way, and I believe it's the way that's very authentic and unique, in that you can re-engage your workforce and your customer base, your clients, your vendors, whoever it is, those that you're serving,
right,
on a quarterly basis. And there's calendar, there's strategy. You don't have to wonder, what are we going to do over the next 3 months to engage people? It takes the guesswork out of it.
It does.
Yeah.
Every company that came and sent a culture champion to be certified this week, they were all for-profit companies, right? Mm-hmm. So for-profit companies, but that we're helping to, engage their heart and the soul of their company, and helping these individuals not just champion that themselves or what they want, but champion the heart and soul of the company. So we were even teaching facilitation tools and peer coaching ideas. How do you run a meeting where you're trying to get information out of everyone without telling them the answer?
Sure.
How do you get curious and ask questions and provide a safe space for individuals to open up and be vulnerable? Scott Moorhead, CEO of Build a Culture of Good, and also of TCC and Round and all the things. Yeah. He made a guest appearance today, and he said, I loved this, when he was like, there was a guy who was a pretty tough nut to crack, right?
Yes.
And he was not opening up. He did not want
to the culture of good
or to participate. He finally just said, all right, when was the last time you cried, and what made you cry?
Yeah.
And he goes, and the guy's like, well, I don't cry, nothing happens. He goes, we're just going to sit here in this uncomfortable silence until you answer me. And I thought, oh my gosh, but that's it, right? Yeah. It's getting to that point. It's not making people cry, but it's getting to that point where you're feeling on the edge of a little bit of that vulnerability. And that's where I was telling people, that's where you want to hold a safe space for people to do, because that is the verge of that great work that creates the passion, that plants the seeds, that helps this sustain.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So we had 5 this time.
Yeah.
Our goal is to have 10.
Yeah.
Sometime in September, we hope. So we don't have the save the date just yet, but we're going to be sending out save the dates.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to meet Shannon Rose Farrell Jackson, the amazing one. George Rogers is going to be with us next time.
So excited.
Hopefully Aaron Doolin, part of the team, will be there. I'll be there. This training and this development is really key, not just to organizational culture, But if you're a leader and you say, you know what, I'm ready to like grow in my work, and I'm ready to really feel equipped and empowered to lead people and do so with strategy and a playbook. The playbook is cool.
Yes.
Did you bring that up yet?
The
I was like, I wonder if we talked about the playbook. The playbook's really cool because that gives really a guided tour in a sense of what is this going to look like as it's lived out. So not only do the champions go back home with a strategy over the next 3 months that can be implemented, they also have an entire playbook to follow and reference as a guide to ensure that they're making the progress they want, that they're winning. Look, most people, if you ask them, how do you measure that your culture is successful? Either they don't measure it or they're measuring it by some old methodology. Yeah. And when you are able to understand that culture is something that's embedded into the DNA and the essence of who the business is, it takes time to lead that. And it really requires a really solid strategic plan, because if not, how do you even know you're doing it?
I mean, a solid strategic plan, but not one that is stifling
or
that is too controlling. That was brought up quite a bit in the fact that I know I've been through other certifications or programs where it's like, this is the process and you have to go through this in order for it to be successful, or if you skip a step, it's going to fail. That's not how this is. I saw 5 different strategies and ways of doing it. Like, we suggest starting with a big good.
Yeah.
But there were others who are like, you know what, a big good is not the right way.
Or the right timing.
Or the right time for us to start, culture of good within our organization. We need to start with an hour good, which is that team level good. And we're thinking to ourselves, we're like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, how do we support you in that?
How do we champion you? Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the idea, right? It's if all 5 of those are different, the instance is different, the timing's different, what industry they're in. So that's the idea too. I think sometimes with culture programs, which I don't see culture of good as a program. With culture programs, you have a really smart person that comes in and kind of helps to, consult the culture and work on the essentials and everything else. And there's nothing wrong with that. What's really nice is having that internal champion that knows the business, knows people, knows what time the organization's in, what season it's in, what has the history been. All of those components are necessary to be able to champion that culture. We can't champion someone else's culture. No. You have to champion your culture, but we can champion your champion.
We can champion you. We can champion your champion.
And that's what we do at Culture of Good. And so when you come to a training like this, I think what we found as you're talking is that the instance looks completely different. What we provide is the scaffolding.
Yeah.
And the scaffolding is there to help you build, but then you remove the scaffolding, right? Scaffolding's not there forever. So Culture of Good is here to champion and give you the tools and the solution, really the online portal. I'm excited about that because that's launching in a couple weeks for those that are champions to be able to go online and have quick access to tools and products and really to find the success in the fact that it's good to have a great heart and a big heart and a beating heart and want to do a bunch of good. But if you don't have a plan to do it, you end up getting lost, and then it's frustrating and people give up all the time, and that's what we don't want. No. So, yeah.
My whole goal, and what drives me, and Ryan knows this, is love. It's to create space and bring love into the world. That's it. That's what I do at its very simplest form. And I do that in all different ways. But the cool thing about Culture of Good is that's exactly what it is. It's providing safe spaces for these champions to learn how to bring this incredible good into their company and help their company spread that good and spread that love and spread that light to the world. And here I am, I'm like, it's 5 people, right?
Oh, yeah.
But they're going into companies where they've got hundreds and thousands of employees.
So cool.
Boom.
Yeah. That's how the movement starts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because once there's 5, then there's another 5 or 10, and we're just gonna keep showing up.
Right.
And we're going to ask you in September if you have a champion or you are that champion. We're going to ask you to show up. We're going to ask you to be a part of the Culture of Good training. It's 3 days. Mm-hmm. I mean, really good training.
We had individuals say they have never been through a training like this, gotten so much out of such a little time, and made it so easy for them to take action. And one of the cool things is we do a little pressure testing, a little performance testing. And I'm not going to tell you all of it. That's a super secret sauce that you can come experience for yourself. But that's really what helps them say, like, oh my gosh, I'm ready. I'm ready to go back and have these conversations with my CEO today. Yeah. We had an individual who was making phone calls last night.
Yes, before the training was over.
Already kicking off actions. And he now has his Culture of Good team created.
Yeah, already.
And they're going to have their first meeting on Monday. I mean, we weren't expecting that to take root, but that's how easy we make it. Or I shouldn't say easy. That is how simple.
Simple. Very simple.
Yes.
It's a very simple concept, and it's always based on you and you knowing how to best champion your organization. So he's going back to the ground running. His hair's on fire as he goes back to work on Monday morning. We have someone else that said, you know what? This is going to have to wait a month. Yeah. Just because there's a season of transition. And so, and that's part of really managing and leading this really leading this process forward, is saying, okay, we know there's tumultuous change for the next 4 weeks, but because we have a plan, we can set the calendar of events. And even though the training is over, it's not going to get lost.
No.
You imagine going to a training and then having to wait a month or two before you can implement. Well, as long as you have a plan to implement, it's okay. But if you go back to all of this a month or two later, you know, and so it's really, really special. I mean, I just feel filled up. I mean, honestly, during the pandemic, it was like no one wanted to even talk about culture, you know, like everything was so much around change. No one knew what it was going to look like. And we went from a 12-month program to a 3-month program to now a 3-day program. And this really, I'm like, what do we do? Simplify, simplify, simplify so we can scale.
That's right.
Right? So we're scaling, we're growing. This movement has started. Go on championyourculture.com or cultureofgood.com. Reach out to us on LinkedIn or Twitter. Where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. On LinkedIn. Make sure you reach out to the Culture Good team. We love to champion people that champion people.
And good in the world.
And champion good in the world. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you want to make your workplace and your world just a little better, and you want to plan to do it, and you want the team support from us.
You want to work with us.
And you do, whether you know it now or not. I mean, somebody came and hadn't even heard of Culture Good before he was invited like a month ago.
I know.
I mean, that stuff is great. And some of you for the last 10 years have been saying, ooh, if I could do Culture Good, that's what I would do with my life. Well, guess what?
You can.
See you in September. cultureofgood.com. Make sure that you reach out to us. We love to champion you as you do good in the world and in the workplace. And yeah, really good stuff. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
I'm glad that you're here.
I'm sending so much love out into the world right now. I'm feeling so great and grateful. This is doing such good in the world. It's healing a lot of broken cultures out there. As you pointed out, the pandemic, you know, a lot of people didn't want to talk about culture, but they sure needed it.
Oh my goodness.
And now what doom and gloom is happening in the recession and all these things. Like
people are
they're hungry to have a place that cares about them and that loves them and that is providing meaning and that will provide a safe space and good for the world. So send your champions, be a champion. The world needs it now, and it's going to continue to need it for a long time.
More and more. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's it.
Bye.
Bye. Perfect.
That's perfect. We're good at riffing.
Like 20 minutes.